Navigator. Good, 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 good. Okay, guys, let me just stop this. Actually, welcome to.
I still remember how basic my idea was. You know, the vigor to do something, how to do it was the question.
Requirement for the entrepreneur in their journey. So it's a matter of great satisfaction for me that we have been able to attract a lot of talent and create a number of wonderful programs. We've worked with companies that are from toys to candy to deep tech startups that have gone through the Launchpad program, and we worked with them for about 100 days. Towards the end of that, we've seen them get early customers, grow their company, get some sort of funding from different kind of sources.
At NSRCell, we strive to encourage women entrepreneurship. The Women Startup Program at NSRCell supports early-stage women entrepreneurs from across sectors. The Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women's Program is offered across the country by NSRCell. As part of this program, women entrepreneurs receive classroom sessions on marketing, HR, how to develop an effective business model canvas, and how to negotiate with stakeholders.
In 2016, Texas Instruments, in collaboration with DSG and IIM Bangalore, launched a program called India Innovation Challenge Design Contest. The program is for engineering students. They compete at different levels. TI takes care of the whole process, and then 10 teams are selected. NSRCell provides mentoring, business mentoring, release a seed fund from DST to all the teams.
We launched the first non-profit incubator for the country in April 2017. With a growing pool of CSR and philanthropic funds, there is a demand and an urgent need for corporates to invest in well-run organizations that create meaningful impact. On the other side, we saw a supply of very young, talented professionals entering this space with tremendous amount of entrepreneurial spirit, creative energy, and a passion to make a difference in society. That's where NSRCell Social comes in. We help to build executional capabilities of these entrepreneurs.
The vision for NSRCell, it is to create a very comprehensive ecosystem for entrepreneurs with all the components and elements.
This is an amazing place, and you would never get any of these places in the city or in the country. And that is the beauty of this 100-acre of wilderness that we have. Under the tree, I've listened around thousands of stories in the last 7 years with entrepreneurs coming up with different opportunities, different problems. It is all about listening. My definition of mentoring is that try to get the answers from the entrepreneur, that they have the answers.
NSRCell and mentors have empowered me as an entrepreneur.
After coming here, we acquired customers with a couple of other channels that we were overlooking earlier.
Being part of NSRCell helped us out with all the foundations of business, like talking to the users, being mentored by best in the industry, and pitching to the investors. We are making the phrase "anybody can dance" a reality.
In fact, our first check was signed here itself when the investors came to meet us.
We, in fact, at CE had 2 farmers as a part of our network. Now, after 1.5 years, we have now grown to a 300 network of strong farmer team. And I believe this is just the beginning for it.
This came at a time when I really needed to go back to the concepts and the basics of my business. And this really gave me that time.
It is important for them to learn what it takes to create and build a successful organization.
As we move for the next 20 years, we would love to welcome you to be part of our journey. We will handhold you as you try different things, sometimes fail, but eventually you will be successful as an entrepreneur. Come and join us at NSRC.
Hey, good morning, everyone. So, Shekar, I will take another 5 more minutes. Then actually, I'll hand over to you. Okay. Yep. Good morning, everyone. Actually, welcome to yet another first startup session. Today, we're going to talk about pitching your business for startups, which is a very important for almost all the entrepreneurs. Okay. So, just actually, my name is Keshav Reddy. If you're joining for the first time for this series, I am a consultant at NSRC, a startup growth specialist. I had sales and marketing at E2E Networks. Thanks to Niti Aayog, this entire series is supported by the Niti Aayog. Special thanks to them. If you are tweeting, in case you are sharing on your social media, please use these hashtags, #NSRCL, hash first startups, #IAMB, and our handle is at NSRCL. Yeah, quick intro by me. Then actually, obviously, I will hand over to the in the good hands of Shekar Nair. He's a partner at Upekkha, a value SaaS catalyst. I think he helped many startups. And yeah, quick upcoming events. Tentatively, we may have the evaluation for startups on Sunday, August 16th, but it's right now tentative. If not that one, we will be having some other event, first startups event on August 16th, but this time it will be on Sunday. Okay. Then we are doing the teardown on Saturday, August 23rd, which is in a healthcare actually focused teardown. If you're part of a healthcare this thing, you should apply there. So there are a eminent panel will come. They will help you to go through that. Actually, they'll give you the various inputs for your products and services. Startup Jam, we have a CMO's view actually on Friday, August 21st. Actually, that's an afternoon session. Special thanks to all the volunteers. In case you want to get in touch with us, actually, please write it to us at ideas@nsrcl.org. Our URL is nsrcl.org. One very important announcement I just want to make. Actually, we have applications are open for this Women Startup Program. It's a free program. Please understand. If you have, I'm pretty sure all of us have a woman in our life. Actually, if they were, it's a fantastic program which will help them actually to be an entrepreneur. So even their existing startups, women led by the women, so they should join this and they will learn a lot of things. I will share this link in the chat window also. A quick housekeeping session. If you have any specific personal question to the panelists or me, you can put it in the chat window, only marking to me or the specific, here in this case, Shekar. If you have any questions when actually the Shekar is giving the presentation, please put that in actually in the question answers. And towards the end, actually, we'll open up for the question answers where you can raise your hands. And there actually we will allow you to ask your question. With that note, actually, please put your hands together. Okay, just before actually going, I will just check 1 more minute. Just yeah, this is for the collecting actually. Well, the same actually menti.com. If you go right now, just go to the menti.com, actually put the code 3433 and 66. So according to you, what are the common mistakes founders make when they're pitching the startup ideas? You can put in one word. Overcommitting, good one. Okay, let's see actually others. Let's wait for Shekar. We will wait for 1 minute, 1 or 2 minutes, then actually getting caught up in the tech.
Sure. I would also, yeah, go ahead. We can run 1 or 2 more questions. I want to see how people are feeling today.
Okay.
Right. So personally and professionally.
Okay, that actually we will run after some time. Actually, now I have a limit for the 2 only. I will run actually. I'll ask that around 11 o'clock actually or something.
Okay, no issues. Yeah.
No MVP. Okay, projections, overcommitting, underfunding. Good. We will wait for the 25, 30 inputs, Shekar. Then actually we will move forward actually.
I think some of them are entering in the chat, so you can ask them to.
Yeah, they should go to the menti.com and enter. Okay. Shiva, you can start recording the session.
Yeah, Keshav, it's already started. Thanks.
I paused it actually, but now you can start. I hope actually you have to. Shekar, you are going to cover all of this.
I mean, if they are in control, then they can avoid all these things.
Yes.
So my simple message to them would be, no, don't lose control. Be the pilot in the plane.
Good.
Okay, so you let me know when we can get started.
Yeah, we will just wait for 1 more. Yes, I think I'm just stopping it. Thank you, guys. Over to you, Shekar.
Sure. So I'll share my screen so that you can see the presentation which I'll be using today. Is that, can you see that? Keshava?
Yeah, Shekar, I can see that.
Okay. And if you're not able to hear me for any reason, just let me know.
Sure.
But I have, I don't want to be talking when there is some internet issues or something, right? So just let me know. Okay. So good morning, all of you. Hope you're feeling good today. In fact, that's the reason why I wanted to run that as a Mentimeter. We are in the middle of a crisis. We are in uncertain times, right? So I want to start off by wishing and hoping that all of us, including our families and friends, remain safe, and that we go through this crisis, we pass through this crisis with minimal challenges and difficulties. So now, as business owners and entrepreneurs, this crisis is actually acting as a forcing function, okay, making you guys think about your business, right, and optimize. It gives you an opportunity to optimize all aspects of this business, of your business, and which includes, like, looking at relooking at your business model, because some of you are probably seeing that your customers are not giving you orders or continuing the service. And in other cases, some people might be seeing unexplainable growth, and they have to go back and relook and see what changes in the behavior has made this happen and how can they keep it sustainable, right? So as business owners, this is actually a good forcing function to stop and relook and see, how do you optimize your business. And I'm assuming that since we are already 3-4 months into this, most of you have already gone ahead and started optimizing your business, whether it is cash flow, whether it is trying to create lemonades out of lemon, which is, like I say, as building new business opportunities. All of these, I'm sure you guys are already looking at it, right? And some of you in this, I see about 250 participants today. So some of you are probably, want to be entrepreneurs or just starting up your business, right? So one of the good things about this is, in this time, it's actually easy for you to be able to get hold of, talk to prospective customers and understand what has changed for them in the short term and in the long term, right? So you can actually, and today nobody is expecting you to make an appointment, go and meet people in person. They're pretty much it's become a level playing field. You are able to call from anywhere, talk to them. People are also happy because they're also going through these challenges. They also want to understand how somebody can help them through this process. So for people who are just starting the business, this is actually not a bad time, right? It's also a good time for being able to put together a team, bringing together talent in a cost-effective manner, because it's not like there is a huge bubble and people are all jumping from one job to the other. So it's actually a good way to do that. And you guys can build whatever product and solution based on customer needs and be ready for the new waves that are going to show up, right, shortly. So that is important. The other aspect I want to just touch upon is most of you here, are interested in this session because you want to raise money from some investor, and you either have a cash crunch because of which you want to raise money, or you are seeing your business grow fast, right, unexpectedly. And you think that, okay, if you are able to invest more money into the business, then you can actually grow the business faster, right? So these are probably the two reasons why you're looking to raise money. So we'll get started. In this session, what we will talk about. One simple thing is, if you guys have any questions, please post it. I think Keshava will make sure that there is a mechanism for us to be able to post either in Q&A or in the chat window. Keshava, can you just mention how people should be asking the questions?
Yeah, their questions actually they should post it in the Q&A only, not in the chat. Okay, they should ask in the Q&A. This then actually, some of them you can answer them during your session, and towards the end, actually, when you have a question and answer session, actually people can raise their hands. Then we will allow them to ask the question directly to you.
Great. Okay, so let's do that. And so what is the session about? So you guys must have heard a lot of folks talking about angel investments, pitch decks in the past, right? Here, what we will do is we will look at some of the important nuances around this, okay? So some of the questions that we will answer here and you will learn by the end of the session is, what is the right timing for you to raise an investment, right? What are those mistakes to be avoided when you go through this entire process, right? In this session, we will actually look at a lot of actionables so that you can do the end-to-end process. Once you decide that, okay, I want to raise money and how much you want to raise money, then there will be a lot of actionables here in terms of how you should go about doing this end-to-end. And we will put all this process together and explain to you, right? So we will also share in this session that focusing on the story of the business is more important than just the business itself, right? And how do you pitch that story to others is important. And actually running that process end to end is not a simple thing. It has to be thought about and done methodically. So we'll talk about that also. So I want to start with this illustration. You can see that, the guy or girl who is, standing there is actually the founder, and the founder is carrying somebody on their shoulders, right? So this is normally what we see most of the times. Having worked with a lot of startups, some of the things that we see is that the founder is very brave, does not give up, right? And tries to do everything possible to win. In the way, they are, during the process of raising money, during the process of this journey, they're carrying people. And it is important to make sure that you're not carrying a burden or a monkey on your shoulder, because if you do that, it is actually going to slow you down, right, with whatever you're trying to do. And when I talk about a burden or a monkey, it is not necessarily a person, right? It could be a person that you're carrying as part of your journey, people in your team, people in your board, people as your advisors, people as your investors. It could be any of those, but it also could be abstract things. Many of the times, the abstract things are, for example, during your process, how much of your management rights have you given to somebody else, right? Have you lost control of your company by giving too much of your company, that for every decision that you have to take, you have to ask somebody else, right? what is your loss of shareholder rights? What are your terms at time of exit? Because if you are going to exit at certain point, and if you have to give a lot of money to the investors first before you get money, then it may be very unfair to the founders also, right? So there are many such things that people carry. What we see is when we talk to startups, and that is when they are looking at their contracts and agreements and looking at it and saying, oh, you know what, this definitive agreement says that if I have to do a certain thing, I have to go get permission from all my shareholders, right? So these are kind of things that you should be very careful about. And we will talk about all of those today. So first question that people have in mind, and many of them ask me, is when should I take investment? Okay, yeah, I think, I want to take investment, but when should I really take? What should be my basis for thinking about it, right? And many first-time founders, what they do is when they have an idea, they say, okay, let me go ahead and raise some money. Or some of them say, okay, let me go and do an MVP, a minimum viable product, or at least some kind of a demo or something, and they say, okay, let me go raise some money, right? The reason why we do this is also because one of the things is that we have been conditioned, okay, whether it is through media or through press, whatever, we have been conditioned to think that raising money is an success milestone. We always think, entrepreneurs always think that, okay, if somebody says that, they have been able to raise a significant amount of money either from a VC or an angel, then that is a success milestone, right? I think that we should look at this a little bit differently, right? Because we do not realize what are the side effects of getting money before you are ready. Not you are ready alone, before your business is ready. You may be ready. You may say, okay, no, anytime anybody is ready to give me money, I'm ready to take it. But is your business actually ready, right? And this analogy is like you're trying to trek up the mountain, and because you have taken the initiative to be able to trek, as a congratulatory message to you, is saying, okay, feed the trekkers with whatever they want, right? Great, it is a good realization that you're getting all the food and everything else, but the challenge is that the more you eat, you're not able to trek efficiently, right? It's the same situation as if you take money too early, it's not good, okay? It's not, and we'll see why it is not good. But the other thing is, when you should not consider that taking money is your success milestone. You should consider that hitting your business milestones with or without money is actually supposed to be the success, right? Success milestone. So let us look at what I mean by this, right? So many of the times, as entrepreneurs, we all tend to think that, since we don't have money, we are not able to do certain things, okay? Whether it is hiring the right resource, or whether it is getting a nice office space, or, doing advertisements, marketing, etc., right? Spending money for acquiring your customers. So what we think about this is, have you really looked at your bottleneck properly? Okay, because many of the times the things that money can buy you are actually the bottleneck, not money itself. Okay, it's very important, because if you are able to solve that thing that money can buy you in a different way, then you are actually in an advantage, because without spending money, you are able to do that. And there is a process called the effectuation technique in entrepreneurship, which many of the true business entrepreneurs, okay, who build sustainable and long-term businesses without having to take too much money, right? They do this very well. Is they are able to look at and say, what is my real bottleneck? Okay, and can I solve this bottleneck through some other creative way rather than having to take money? So if it is space, can you go and get a space from your friends, or can you take a space from an incubator? If it is, for example, you need resources on the cloud, same thing. I'm sure all accelerators today are giving you resources on the cloud, right? So you should be able to do that innovatively. if you have to get engineering resources, nothing better than actually being able to challenge an engineer based on your technology rather than having to pay money and try to get the engineer right. So you have to use a combination of everything. I'm not saying that in all cases you don't need money, but you have to really look at it. And that is how you time whether you should take an investment or not, by looking at it from a true entrepreneurial perspective. The other important thing is, if your business is not ready, then if you take money, what you're going to do is you're going to burn both investor money and your equity, right? Because you are getting money through your equity. So why do you want to burn that equity, and why do you want to burn that investor money if you're not ready? And a way to think about how you are ready or not is, are your customers seeing the value of what you have built, and are they ready to pay money for it? If the customers are willing to pay money for it, then now putting money to help grow that customer base is okay. A simple model to look at it is, if you are spending $1, are you able to get $1 or more out of your business? If you're not doing it, then you should not consider just taking money as a success outcome, right? We see this a lot in the B2C space. A lot of people have to go get money and then they start building out their business. But in a B2B business, you should approach it by actually building the fundamentals of the business before you start taking money, right? The other important thing, which sometimes masks a problem when you take money, is we see this very often, is people spend a lot of money to acquire customers and then later realize that just because they're able to spend that money, right, whether it is through advertisements, etc., they're able to get the top of the funnel, they're able to get convert the customers by spending a lot of money, but the economics is not working out, right? The customer acquisition cost is much higher than what you get out of the customer, and therefore when you stop spending the money, you start seeing that, hey, you know what, I was not going after the right customers. That is why these customers are not seeing the value. They're not sticking on for a long time, and they're not paying for it. So what is the right time to take the money is make sure that your business is ready, and only when you think that your business is ready, you should go after taking the money. And make sure that to look at whether your business is ready, see whether the fundamentals, the unit economics, whether just at a very, very small scale, we are not talking of large scale of customers, at a very small scale, even if it is winning one customer a month or winning one customer a quarter, is that economics working? Is the customer ready to pay? The fundamentals have to be checked out, right? Oops, where is this one? Okay. So now let us look at, now that we looked at how, when to take the money, let us look at how much should you be taking, how much should you be raising, it's another question that comes up, right? So for this, the way I look at it is, can you spend, okay, even after taking the money, can you spend like you do not have that money that you have raised? Can you spend like that? Can you be very frugal about your spending? Can you continue to spend as though you don't have it, right? So if you take the money, we say, okay, take the money when you don't need it. This is pretty obvious, because when you need it and when you go ask, you are not at a position of advantage, right? And your negotiating power is also very less, right? When you need it. So it's better for you to take it when you don't need it. So even if you're profitable, if you think that money is going to help you scale, go take the money, right? And try to spend the money as though you don't have it. That's a very important thing, because that helps you decide how much money you need it. Because if you are of the opinion that you will take the money, you have to burn, you have to grow, you have to try spending as much money to explore your growth, then you will soon burn what you have taken, and you're actually burning the equity. So here I am actually looking at it from an entrepreneur's perspective and trying to make sure that you guys have very good founder outcomes later on, right? And therefore, when you raise money, you don't want to raise money just because an investor is telling you that, hey, this is the minimum I will invest because I need a certain percentage in the company for it to make sense for me. But you have to take it based on what is the money required to take you to the next milestone. So if you look at the same analogy, right, if you need a lot of oxygen cylinders to get to from the base camp to the summit, right? Instead of carrying all those oxygen cylinders with you, since you know that once you get to the high camp, the next high camp, you will be able to get refuel or get another oxygen cylinder from the camp. You should always look at it as, I want to take money only to get to my next milestone. Yes, you don't want to be stuck in the middle. That's another important thing, because we see some of the startups making that mistake where they get stuck in the middle and they raise too little. But you want to raise only that much to be able to get you to that next milestone, or to solve a particular problem that you are having, right? If you're experimenting with a channel and you need to spend money on that channel to be able to acquire customers through that channel, then you need to take money to be able to do that experiment, or to be able to grow that channel, right? But you're not going to take the money by giving away a significant amount of equity, just because you think that, if I can keep that money, it is great, I'll have it, it's a safety net, or thinking that, I need it for my entire building that entire business. So we'll just look at what are some of the mistakes that first-time founders normally make, and what we should do to avoid some of these mistakes, right? And the first and the important thing here is, when you look at this, when you look at the entire process of taking angel investment or taking investments in general, you have to remember that this is a journey, right? It's not like a very quick sprint where you're going to just get an outcome for your company, right? For your business. This is actually a pretty long journey, and it is critical who you are taking along in this journey, right? And one of the big important things that we tell our startups and startup founders is look at who you're taking with you in the journey and what kind of value they can add. It is not about just the money that someone is ready to give, but it is what else can they add to help your business is actually very important. So we look at it saying that, try to bring in strategic partners, strategic investors, we call them as strategic investors, who can give you access to things like strategic partners who understand your domain better, who can help you grow your market, whether it is, maybe they have knowledge about the US market, which you don't have, and they can give you access to the US market, or they are good at being able to tell you how to grow your particular business or look at your business model because they know that domain well, right? So those are the kind of investors that you want to first look at taking with you. In other words, I would say that cash, especially in US, is becoming a commodity. In India, it is still not a commodity, but you should treat it like that, right? Cash is something that you can always get from people, but getting people who understand what it takes to build a business, getting people to understand, getting people to understand that this is a journey and that they are coming along with you and not becoming a burden to you, and making sure that you get the right kind of people who can help give value to your business is very important. The other common mistake we see is that many a times entrepreneurs tend to confuse angel investments and VCs, right? So sometimes they're going after VCs right away instead of going to angel investors. Sometimes the expectation, they are okay with some angel investors asking for things and they compare it with, say that, okay, this is a VC, so similar to, because their mindset is like, okay, VCs also ask for all these things, so we should also be doing all these things for angel investment. That is not true, right? The motivation itself for angel investors and VCs are very different. VCs have to return to their investors, who we call as limited partners, right? They have to return money to them, right? So their thinking, their fund philosophy, the way they look at it, the time pressure they have. For example, when VC invests, they expect that you will exit in a certain amount of years. And the reason for that is they have to return that money to their investors, right? And there is a lifetime that is for the fund, which may be a 7-year fund or it might be a 10-year fund, right? But so there is a time pressure for the investors to be able to get an exit out of what they're investing. So whereas an angel investor is not like that, his motivation is very different, right? They want to stay engaged with the professional community, new trends. They want to be able to stay engaged with new trends. They see, they have empathy to entrepreneurs, and they want to give back to other entrepreneurs because they succeeded doing this or somebody else helped them in the past, right? So the motivation is very different and the expectation is different. You don't have to prepare a significant amount of pitching when you're going for an angel investment, right? Because angel investors are investing looking at you, and also by saying, okay, who are the other people that you are able to bring along in this journey? A VC needs a very well thought business plan, so you have to put together a lot more effort into being able to put together a business plan. So the message here is that as first-time founders or as entrepreneurs, you guys should know, okay, that if you're going after angel investors, the kind of angel investors that you want to go are not people who are going to ask you for, financials and details and all those kind of things. You should be able to pitch a small story, right? But they should be able to buy into that story of your business based on how you pitch that versus a complete business plan with which you have to go when you are going to raise money from a VC, right? That's the important thing. And then when you look at angel investors, there are I would say that most of them are good people, right? They want to work with you, but they themselves are not trained about angel investments, expectations, etc. So for them, it might be normal to say, okay, well, guys, why don't you give me 25% of your company? I will, because you are not having money at this stage. Okay, why don't I'll give you 5 lakhs or 10 lakhs and then take it. That is absolutely not okay. We don't consider that as angel investment. I would consider that as vulture investment, right? Because you cannot take that much equity from an entrepreneur, at that, for that level of funding. And as I mentioned to you, you don't have to go and ask for, if you need only 50 lakhs, you don't have to go raise 10 crores, and you don't have to give away your company, right? So the message here is look for the right kind of people, because this is another problem we see, right? People, when they come to us, they have only taken angel investment, very small amount of money, but they have already given up a lot of their equity. It comes to bite you at the later stage, because when you look at founder outcomes, okay, one of the other important thing is not every opportunity or every entrepreneurial opportunity is VC fundable. Again, comes back to the economics of VCs versus angels, how they look at it, right? For the VC, the fund philosophy is such that they expect the startup, right, to and that too, it depends on the size of the fund, by the way, to actually a few startups success should actually give the multiples of that fund itself, the size of the fund itself, right? So everybody in a VC environment, what's happening is they expect you to go for it's a binary. They want you to make it very big, okay? And in that process, when they're trying to make it very big, you may lose a lot of things out of that, okay? Which is, you may even fail in your business, but the intent was right. For the VC, the intent was right because he is trying to get you, right, to be a big success, because otherwise it doesn't make sense for them. But what we are finding is many of the entrepreneurial businesses that are great, right, are not necessarily VC fundable. They can be profitable. They can be returning through dividends to their investors. They could be returning to the angel investors through secondary sale of equity. There are many other ways to do that, right? So you have to make sure that when you're taking angel investors, that they're educated about it, they understand that, and they do not look at it from a VC perspective. The other common thing to avoid is people, when they go and pitch to even angel investors, right? What they tend to do is they are dumping a lot of jargons and technology in the pitch, right? So it's as I mentioned, it's not a big business plan that you're taking to an angel investor. You're not taking deep financials. You're not taking deep technology there. But when you are pitching to the business, and we will see this, we'll spend a lot more time on how you will actually do this, right? Pitching to your business. But you don't want to dump your features in the pitch. It's not about technical jargons, right? Because most of the angel investors will not know the domain as well as you know. And therefore, when you go and pitch to angel investors, you make it as simple as possible. Bring out a story that explains your motivation. It'll be easier for you to get the investors, and you will get the right people also to come along with you. The last thing, and this is also another very important thing, I just touched upon this, is when you decide to go with an angel, and then you put together an agreement, okay? Either sometimes if you're going through a professional angel like an IAN or others, right? They will already have a term sheet, and it is very important that you review that term sheet with an expert. An expert could be another entrepreneur who is at a later stage than you, right? Who has gone through this before, and he is now seeing the problem, and you don't want to, burn yourself and then relearn this whole thing again, right? So make sure that you ask them, because there are so many different things in the terms that takes away your management right. I find people not able to even transfer a small percentage of their shares to somebody without taking permission from all their investors, right? I find that people are not able to spend a certain amount of money, right, for their business without taking permission from their investors. I find people not able to even increase their salaries, or they give a bonus out to the founders or to the management team without taking permission from investors. So make sure that you review these things very carefully, and it does not become a burden for you as you continue. Okay, so now that we looked at also the mistakes, I want to get into the how, right? How to raise this money, and we'll spend more time in deciding how to raise the money. I'm just doing a time check also. Okay, so first thing, this I normally, we don't talk about this. I don't talk about this normally, but considering the COVID situation, and assuming that people, and I also mentioned that it's a good time to start businesses, right? And assuming that there are people here, who are looking at starting businesses or relooking at their business model, I really strongly recommend that you should relook at your business model, see whether you should revise your business model or not. And let me tell you why, right? Today, if you look at it, angel investors who have put money into SaaS startups have actually done well. I don't know how many of you know about Minjar, Vijay of Minjar, who sold to Nutanix, right? At a very, very early stage, he was able to get a very good deal with Nutanix, right? Similarly, CloudCherry, Vinod sold to Cisco very recently, right? And Pawan of Shield Square, Recruiterbox. So all these guys, they have given back money to angels, and angels who have invested in these guys, right, are keen to take on other startups because they have seen the money returned to them, right? The angel investors. So angel investors in Indian SaaS startups have done well, okay? And see, many of the things, one important caveat I want to mention here is, even though the pitching the business talks about saying art of raising angel investment for SaaS startups, this is applicable to all startups, whatever we are talking about. But the reason I'm specifically talking about relooking at this business model is we are experts in SaaS, and we believe that today, because of especially because of COVID, the tailwinds are actually for SaaS businesses and is actually favoring SaaS businesses. So you want to decide which boat you want to be in, right? You want to be in the boat where the tailwind is already there and everything is flowing neatly, or you want to struggle with the headwinds, right? And let me explain what I mean by what I mean by COVID has been tailwind for SaaS, right? As you know, whatever business, whether it is SaaS or not, today your business model that you should be looking at should be such that you are not having to, your business model should not be such that you should be marketing online, okay? You should be selling online. You should be onboarding online. You should be supporting online. You should be basically doing everything online without having any feet on the street. Feet on the street is where people go out and talk to customers, etc. Any components, whether it is deployment, whether it is sales, whatever it is. And you should be having assets on no assets, right? It should be lightweight where everything is on the cloud. This is the model. Today, you can work from home and build your business. And we have several examples, whether it is from Raipur, whether it is from, Ahmedabad, everywhere where a couple of people, 3 or 4 people come together and build a strong business where they are able to make a lot of money on a monthly basis, just because if you follow the model, okay, I call it software as a service, whatever model you're looking at, do not get into a model where you need to have feet on street sales or you have to have asset heavy. It'll be very difficult for investors to support those kind of business models, especially during this stage. And I think this is going to be true for at least the next 1 year, right? So make sure that you're aware of that. And so what is good about a business model like SaaS, where you are able to do everything online, right? One is India advantage, of course, because it is not your traditional selling. You're not going door to door. You're not going to meet people. It's all assisted buying, right? So it is about how well your positioning is, how well your landing page, where a customer comes and looks at your solution is, right? How well you interact with them online to be able to show them the demo and take them through. So that's your assisted buying model, right? So that makes it easy and gives India a significant advantage to be able to access markets globally, anywhere in the world, sitting out of India. The other aspect of it is in a software as a service business model, you're always looking at getting revenues on a constant basis, right? On a monthly basis or on a quarterly basis or on a yearly basis. And we call that recurring revenue. And when you have recurring revenue, even when you run into a situation like you have 3 months or 4 months, of no sales, no new sales happening, what do you expect, right? If you're able to manage keeping the customers that you already had, you continue to get your monthly recurring revenue, and therefore you are not at a risk from a cash flow perspective, right? So a lot of the SaaS startups that we see today are not significantly affected if they have a SaaS business model in place where they're getting recurring revenues. Then their challenge is, of course, is to make sure that they don't lose their existing customers, right? And the moment you are able to satisfy your existing customers because you're providing good value, and if you're able to find new ways by which you can actually increase revenues from your existing customers, then any angel investor will be ready to put money, because he sees that even without having to acquire a single customer, you continue to have a great business because your flywheel is working and you're expanding your revenue even without a single customer. This is a very, very powerful concept, right? That happens especially in a SaaS business model. And I'm sure you can fine tune. It's not only about SaaS, but it is about fine tuning your business model to make sure that you're able to get recurring revenues and you can expand revenues from existing customers. Okay, having said that, let us look at, what is the process? How do you go about, now that I've shared some perspective on how much to raise, when to raise, and just relooking at your business model to see whether, how do you convince your angel investor that this is good based on what people have been seeing in the market today. Now, how do you go about raising it, right? So I want to share this 4N framework for angel investment, okay? The 4 N's are, you should be aware and exploiting and utilizing your network. The narrative is very, very powerful, and narrative is what gets you your investment. Numbers, once you get to your narrative, then you need to think about your numbers, whether it is part of the narrative, the numbers is part of the narrative, or whether it is your part of your valuation, right? When you're talking to your investor in terms of your valuation and in terms of how much equity you want to give and how much money you want to raise, numbers very important. And then the nuances in terms of what structure you are going to use to raise money. There are various forms of structures, right, which are prevalent now. Depending on your business model, many structures are becoming popular in the US and now coming to India also. I'll share some of the things what we are learning in India also about that. But these are the 4N framework for angel investment that we will get into, right? So let's look at what do we mean by network. So when people try to raise an angel investment, the first thing that you have to recognize and realize is that you may need more than one investor to come along with you, right? And finding that first investor is actually critical. This first investor is called the lead investor, right? So you need to find the lead investor. So one of the ways to do this is, of course, there are professional angel networks where you can go to, but we recommend a different strategy for people to raise investment. We tell our founders, right, and entrepreneurs that when you want to find a lead investor, you should look at, based on the domain that you are in, you should write down a wish list of who are those people that you would like to be part of this journey, right? And start asking yourself, who do you know, right? And who do they know who will know them? Write down a list of things. There is, exploit your network, even if the network is not the one who is going to be your angel investor. Exploit your network to be able to figure out how to reach that individual who is in your wish list, or even to ask your network who are the others similar to that particular investor, because in that domain, right, that you are working in. Second thing is, now that social media is there, people use Twitter. Twitter is so effective. You follow people who you really want to be part of your journey, comment on what they're talking about in a very rational manner, and have a rigor and discipline to go after them, right? So I'll tell you from our experience, we find that the easiest way for people to raise angel, okay, is once you identify the people who you want in the journey, only ask the question saying that, hey, you know what, do you mind me sharing my business status with you? And most of them will say, no problem, please, because it's a related domain, go ahead and share. And make it a rigor every 2 weeks or every month, right? Make sure that you're sending them a status of your business status with things that, with 1 or 2 pointers that make them give your point of view about the business, and to challenge them to think about something, or even to ask them to help. You will find that this is not surprising, or it could be surprising to some, but you will find that just doing that very simple thing, when you go back after 2 months and you ask for money, they don't even ask questions. They've already related to you. They have a relationship. They understand what you're doing. They know that you are different from others because you're meticulous about sending them information. You're telling them about your point of view, right? It's not about your business status, right? It's not about your, I'll say business stage. It's not about your business stage. An angel who you are able to build a relationship comes because he wants to be part of that journey. right? He wants to help you. He wants to grow along with you in that business. So that rigor and discipline makes it so important. And once you get a lead investor, then that lead investor will help you in getting more people. Not saying that you should not work in parallel with more investors, you should do that too. But finding that lead becomes super important, because you can sit with the lead, figure out the terms, finalize it, and then everybody else will not even have a question. Okay. Today, even during COVID times, we have a couple of startups who are able to raise money without having to show any financials, without having to show any details, without having to do any due diligence or nothing, right? And they're able to raise significant amount of angel investment even during this time. So I want people to completely forget about any biases that they have, thinking that, oh, nobody is going to invest during COVID. We have to have significant, we should be in advanced stages before we can go talk to angel. Nothing like that, right? So building that rigor and discipline to build trust and relationship with an angel, through your network becomes super important, and please do that. The next aspect of this foreign framework is narrative. And we will have to spend a lot of time on this narrative, because I know people have a lot of questions. They do pitch decks, they do different things. But I'm trying to capture here, what are the essential things and how do you dumb down your narrative so that it is easy for people to understand, and people think of you as different from other entrepreneurs, right? So I'll just start with this. Everybody knows Babak Nivi, who is the founder of AngelList. And you know that AngelList has done a significant amount of, facilitated a significant amount of investments, right? And what he says is that investors invest in the stories of business, not the business itself. And very, very true. That's why we use the word narrative, right? It is not about telling, about your technology, jargons, even to the extent of your revenues, your profitability, everything, right? That's also important, but that is not the thing. It is about how you paint the story of your business that becomes very important. So let's look at what we mean by that, and let's get into what are these ingredients of this narrative, right? What are those things that should be in your narrative? So when I talk about narrative, it is about, positioning your business. It is about pitching your business. If some of these things are not there, then you don't have a narrative. You only have, a few slides or significant number of slides which does not convey a story. That's the point I want to leave you with here, right? So your story should be actually giving your point of view, okay, about that business. What is the insight that me as an angel investor will get from hearing from you, right? What are those driving factors? What are those tailwinds that are going to help me in growing this business? Why now? That answers the question. Why are you doing this business now, right? What was the motivation for you to start this business itself in the first place, right? No, can you bring about a passion there, saying that, if Zoho was able to do it sitting in India, if Freshworks was able to do it, I'm also doing similar things. I'm going after similar things, as in I'm going after similar markets, right? Why can't I be that big, right? Those are the kind of emotions that you want to trigger. You want to trigger either emotions. You want to trigger you want to tell your point of view. You want to explain why now your business will take off, or why now you're doing this business. What was the motivation for you to start this business? So you put all these things together as a story, and that makes it so easy for winning customers. I'll just give an example of one of the founders in our Upekkha cohort, right? Interview Mocha. The founder was telling me that when he went to a particular place. This was a hotel in a Four Seasons hotel in the US. Just by sitting down there, and when unknown people, when he's talking to unknown people, if he's able to talk about a story of his business where he's just painting the point of view and saying that this is what I believe this happens, he gets back, right, saying the response is, why don't you come talk to me? Why don't you, let's have a discussion about this, right? So that kind of an interest is peaked rather than having to just send out a significant number of slides in a slide deck, right? So that's the important thing. So people say, okay, angel investors expect me to have slides on, my product, my solution, my numbers in terms of my revenues, etc. So how should I even present this thing? How do I bring this about in the story, right? This is a question that people ask. Well, how do I bring all these things into the story? So I want to take some time to explain some of the ingredients of your story, in which your problem and opportunity is an important thing that should be part of the story. We will look at some early stage slides from businesses that have actually been very successful, and of course they've been affected, and they're relooking at their business model. Some of them are relooking at their business model for COVID. But let us look at this, right? Some of you might have seen this already. If this problem had to be stated in such simple terms, okay, saying that price is an important concern for customers booking online, right? Hotels leave you disconnected from city and its culture. And to book a room, there's no easy way, right? For booking a room or with a local or becoming a host. As soon as you see this three messages, I'm sure most of you know which company we are talking about. And this is from their actual slides that they used during their early stage of investment. And this is how simple that you are able to express your problem. It is not, there is no significant technology terms here, no jargons here, nothing, right? So can you also express it in simple terms, this problem, right? Similarly, if you look at the opportunity, oh, by the way, that was Airbnb, right? For I'm sure everybody must have guessed that. If you were talking about the opportunity, again, it's very simple. You're talking about how many trips have been booked worldwide, what is the budget online, and if we have certain number of trips, what would be the size of our business? Very simple, easy way to present it, and the investor immediately gets it, saying that, hey, I understand what the problem is and how big the opportunity is, right? Because they have related that opportunity to that problem itself, right? So yeah, if you were to talk about team, how do you bring a team into the story, right? How do you bring, it is about motivation. Why did you start the business? What was the problem that you faced personally, or your co-founders faced personally? What did what did you think at that time when you faced that problem? How did you think that you can change the world? And you came about it. Many of the slides I see when people talk about team and all those is talking about degrees and talking about colleges that they graduated from, their work experience, etc. Right? That's not what is important. It is about telling the story of the founder. What is your story? What motivated you to do this? Right? This is an example of one of the startups that I really like, which talks about the story. But here is another motivation that you can look at, and here is an example of the motivation, right? So here one of the founders couldn't catch bus during Diwali, and he thought, why should that be the case, right? Why should I miss a festival, or why should others miss the festival just because we did not have a mechanism to be able to book, right? Book a seat on the bus in advance. And who the founder is and what the company is, right? Redbus. So this kind of motivation, this kind of story, this kind of your story, your founder's story, has to come through in your pitch. The other ingredient that you will look at is product and solution. Everybody definitely needs product and solution. So my recommendation on this is, do not show the product in terms of showing the stack and talking about the modules in the product and how each module talks to each other, etc. Right? You are showing your product and solution as how the world looks before and how the world will look after, whether it is for your segment of customer. It need not be the entire world. When I talk about world, it's not the entire world, but for your segment of customers, how will it look like, right? So here is an example that I use, again, one of our startups, where we talk about this is the old way of traditional hiring and this is the new way in hiring, right? Here we're talking about how people go through that hiring process previously through manual screening, manual assessments, manual selection, which is what the previous solutions used to offer. But here you have a new solution where it's insta hiring is the positioning, and you talk about instant screening and instant selection done in a parallel manner, right? Which is indicated through this robo. It's a concurrent processing rather than sequential processing. That's enough, right? This simple thing is enough to explain your product and solution to your investor. And there is no mention of using machine language or artificial intelligence or robotics or any of these things, right? Computer vision, any of those things, or even talking about specific Java or C or C++ or whatever, right? So I think this is also an important point to remember is how do you dumb down your product and solution slide also so that your angel investor can understand. Okay. The next is, of course, you need to have a business model that people can relate to. And in the business model, it is what is most important is being able to just talk about very simple unit economics, right? So basically, how much money you will have to spend to acquire customers, if you can tell that. How much money do you think each customer is going to give you, if you can say that, right? Is there a cost to acquiring the customer, which means what is the gross margin for you, right? What are the types of revenues you will get? Is it only subscription revenues? Are you going to get revenues because of installation? Are you going to get revenues because of deployment, onboarding? Are there new other sources of revenue like through APIs? So these are the kind of things that you need to show in a business model, right? Very simple, very easy to understand, no financials, no Excel sheets with 12 months, 18 months projection, 20 months projection. And if you really are having a rocking business where you see a trajectory where everything, all your metrics are growing, of course you should bring that because you want to utilize that, right? So you want to make sure that you are able to utilize that and get mileage out of that. So here is an example where if you have, we call it traction, right? So if whatever traction you have, you want to be able to bring that about, right? So what do so this is an example of Swiggy at its early days in 2014-15. And it's very easy to see that if I show you this kind of attraction where there is an incredible growth and repeat numbers happening and with hardly less spend, you know why Swiggy is where they are today and how much money they have raised, right? The people all want to, this actually gives an emotion of greed to the investors, saying, hey, this is what it is, and if we put money, then where will this company be later, right? So this is one of the other ingredients that you will have to have in your pitching. Okay. So I didn't talk about so many ingredients, right? These are the as long as you can take these kind of ingredients and weave it around with your point of view, and if you're able to convince, give a motivation for why you're starting, why you're doing this, why the time is right now, then it's easy to get any angel investor to put money, right? And it's not these very simple things. If you were to look at it and say, okay, how do you write down? These are some of the key points that you should think about. Is you're writing down your opportunity in terms of the solution, how you solve the problem for your customer. So always come to opportunity from the customer's point of view. Look at it as saying, my customer has this problem. This is such a big problem. Many people share this problem, right? Many have this problem. So that is why my opportunity is big, right? And why are you excited? And why are you and your team the best people to be able to pursue and win this opportunity? That's something, another important thing that you should consider. What are the benefits? That's the problem value that we talked about, right? And what is how much money are you making now, even if it is with one customer, two customers? Are you finding a trend where you see that the unit economics will work, right? Or will it work at scale? You have to be able to explain that, okay, it may not be working now, but it will work at scale because of this reason. So I think you should think about these aspects when you do the story. Whatever story, whatever pitching you come up with, it has to trigger one of these emotions. If you are doing this, then it makes the process of pitching and makes the process of getting an angel investment actually much easier. Are you generating an emotion of greed to the investor? Investor says, hey, I really want to be part of this, man. I don't want anybody else to be part. I want to be part of this because I know that this is going to go big place, because I see the treasure island there. The founder has explained to me how the treasure island looks like. I don't want to lose the treasure sitting there, right? He's already dreaming about the treasure. The second is feel good, right? What a cost. What is that cost that you're trying to do? Maybe as simple as saying that, there is, poor people or underprivileged people are not able to solve certain problems, and you're able to come up with a solution. But of course, it is still a business. And the angel investor relates to that and says, I really love the costs that the entrepreneur is looking at, and I want to be part of that. The other is fear. There are so many people who invest just because your story is so powerful that it generates an emotion of fear, saying that if I don't do it, right, I'm going to miss out on this, and later I'm going to regret why I did not do it. And my fellow friend, my angel investor, my angel network, another person would have invested in this, and I would have missed out on this, right? And then finally, empathy. That angel investor sees in you, he's seeing himself in you, right? So he's saying that, once upon a time, I was also an entrepreneur like him or her. And, I went through this and somebody helped me and I made it very big. So I want to help this person. I think he has the right, attitude and intent and passion. So that passion and everything should come out, right? So that's the empathy part of it. So this entire story pitching, we use a framework called the success framework. That second S is actually not there. It's a success without the last S. So think about it as when you are trying to put together your pitch, right, to angel investors or investors in general, it should be very simple structure. I talked about only very few ingredients. I showed the ingredients in a very, very simple manner. I mentioned about the point of view of the founders being critical, right? Giving that insights, giving the tailwinds, helping people understand what the driving factors are, right? It's very important. And so keep the structure very simple. There should be some unexpected elements in this, right? If everything that you're telling me is something I know, then it doesn't excite me as much. It doesn't create emotions, right? So it is very important that you have certain unexpected elements. It has to be credible. If you are saying things, okay, it is easy for me as an angel investor to disregard it. Whereas if you're able to say that this is what the market is saying, this is what your first customer is saying, or your competitor talked about it, or something was blogged about it, it makes it more credible, right? Make sure that there are some things concrete in this. You saw in the Airbnb slide, it was very concrete. How many transactions are done? How many, if we have X amount of transactions, what size of business will be? It's very, very concrete. So make sure that you bring about concrete information within your pitch. And then finally, emotion. It has to generate emotion where, you know, I did talk about what those emotions are, but I'm sure you guys understand this, but the actual physiology behind this is these emotions do change, right? Actually create or secrete hormones, and those hormones make the mood of the person change. And we have seen and heard instances where people take out their checkbooks and write a check right away in the first meeting itself, right? And many of the techniques that we are talking about here just increases the chances, right? Because we are not advising that it should be in the first meeting itself, because we talked about the rigor that you need to follow, but making sure that you know, that is also possible. That is also possible where somebody you know, feels so good about your pitch that he does not want to take a chance that you don't come back again, and he says, okay, how much are you expecting, and let me write a check, right? So that's another important part. So finally, that is what it should be, a story. Okay, the success framework is your pitch should be a story. And if it is not a story, then no matter what information you have, okay, the reader, especially many times you maybe not have the opportunity to walk through your slides and explain the story to somebody, right? So it's important that your slide deck itself is prepared as a story, because you have to expect that when the person is looking at the slide deck without you walking through that story with them, that they get that story, right? So that's very critical. Okay, so oops, why is this not moving? Okay, sorry guys, I'm having some minor technical issues.
Yeah, Shekar?
Yeah, so I'm just give me a second.
Sure.
Okay. I had a minor technical issue where this. Okay. Yeah. So we talked about narrative, and then you know, your narrative must be supported by numbers, right? So we talked about the unit economics. If your business model has the ability to expand, I'll give you an example here, right? ChargeBee, they started off initially, they were struggling, right? The moment they were able to show one thing to the world, right, they started getting so much interest. And you should talk to Krish about it, right? They're growing like crazy growth, right? We're not talking about 2x, 3x and all that, right? But crazy growth. And the reason is, and they got a significant amount of interest from so many investors that they're being chased by investors. Why? The reason is they were able to show that, you know, in their business, they were able to show that their customer, one customer that is paying, started as their business grew, that customer's business grew, they were ready to pay more and more and more for ChargeBee. So basically, their net revenue retention, we call this NRR, right? Net revenue retention, created by expansion revenues of the same customer, of one customer, okay, started becoming more than 100%. So in some cases, 150%, 160%, etc. Which means you don't have to even add a single new customer. Your revenue will still grow. Your business will still grow by 50%, right? Why were they able to do that? Because they found a pricing mechanism by which, you know, they were able to take a percentage of the total revenue transactions that were happening on that platform, right? So you have to figure out, and if you are able to show that you have something in your business where you can continue to expand, that is that flywheel proof, right? Then your investors will have no problem investing. They'll be looking, they'll be chasing you. And of course, if you have growth metrics, then you should show that. Many of the times in that early stages, we find that the growth metrics are not very impressive for people to show. So in that case, don't show the growth metrics, but show the unit economics and the potential for a flywheel, right? That's very important. The other part of the numbers, part of the 4N framework, the other part of the numbers is your valuation, right? How do you, when you talk about it, people ask me, how do I talk about valuation? I am at a very early stage. I have spent a lot of time just on my product. So how do I set value? So my answer is, if you're able to find a structure where you don't have to talk about value, best, right? Great. We'll talk about that in a minute. What are those options that are available to you, right? But if you have to set a valuation, then, if you have revenues, great, you can always do that. But most importantly, at your stage, at an early stage where you're going to an angel investor, your valuation should be based on your story. Your narrative is what sets your valuation, right? Your positioning is what sets your valuation. You cannot tell an investor saying that because I'm at this, today I'm only at this revenue, I will just put some value for my core tech and my team, and that's what it is, right? The two aspects that you have to consider when you do this numbers and valuation is, first is, you do not want vulture investors, right? So you're not going to give away a lot of equity. Second is, you already know how much money you want to raise, because you want to take only that much to get you to your next important milestone, which will excite your investor to consider you at a much higher valuation, right? So you don't want to make the mistake of some angels, they'll say, okay, I'll give you a very high valuation. You don't want to make that mistake either, because then you are not going to be able to, you'll find challenges when you go for your next round, right? People find that the angel has given a significant amount of valuation, and in the next round, when you go to either a VC or somebody, you already are at a very high valuation that nobody wants to touch you, right? So use comparables in your industry. Think about it as saying that, okay, when I reach that stage, what is the stage at which I will be raising value, where I'll be raising money from a VC investor? Who are my comparables today? So you're looking forward and saying, at that stage, who are those companies who are comparable in my sector, doing my business model? What are they doing? How much are they raising, right? And then set your value accordingly now, so that you have a fair deal, both to be able to raise a lot more money at that stage, and you're not giving up too much from your company. And if you've already raised money, yes, you already have an anchor, right? That number is based on your last valuation and the valuation at which you're going to raise 2 years or 3 years from now, right? So you have that anchor and you can actually play with it. And this numbers is not a science, it is an art. And the more strategic your pitching is, people will be ready to give you more value, right? So your strategic pitching is what is more important, because think about it this way. You're telling me that there is a treasure island there, and come along, we will go together to get that treasure, right? If you are able to paint a picture where I am already dreaming of the treasure island being big, why wouldn't I give you more valuation, right? But if the treasure island is like, I don't know, whether we'll even get to it. It is so small. Maybe the rough seas that we have to go through, right? We don't know whether we can even weather the storm. Then I'm always worried about the valuation, and I think about it as saying, at least let me have a significant percentage of company ownership in this company, because I'm taking a risk, right? So think about all those things. It's numbers. While numbers look like science, right? The narrative and achieving the numbers is actually an art. So try it, play with it, have a role model, work with the role model, and see whether, what feedback you're getting from them. Okay, so the last part of the N framework is the nuance and structure. I don't know how many people consider these things, but it is very important to consider. When you're raising money, you can raise money sitting in India, or you can raise from elsewhere, right? So where are you raising money matters, because the access to your angels also will vary. If you're raising money in US, even though your market is in India, right? All that you need is a structure in the US. Sitting here, you can do that. And if you do that, you have access suddenly to all the angels in the US, right, who believe in the Indian story. And there are a significant number of people, I don't know, again, biases should be left out. We find that there are so many people who relate to India growth story and want to be part of entrepreneur's journey. When we send our startups, right, with a reasonable amount of revenues, the feedback that we are getting from angels in the US is, man, if we were looking at companies in the US itself, right, entrepreneurs in the US coming to us, we find that they are at a much later stage and we don't get such good opportunities, what you're sending to us at an early stage to be able to invest, right, at this value. Because what's happening is in the US, people are, their valuation is already inflated and it is actually more difficult for them to raise, right, unless they go to a professional VC investor where they're taking a lot more money, right? And angels don't even get to sometimes see those because there is significant amount of VC money chasing that opportunity. So you have to realize that it is very important where you are racing because that changes access for you. The other important thing, I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but it's something that we are seeing happening in the US. And I'm proud to say that many of these are actually moving towards India, is revenue-based financing in the middle, right? I'm sure you guys understand equity funding, where you have to give, ownership in your company, equity in your company in return for money. You also understand debt financing, where you can go and take various kinds of debt. And many startup founders tell me that taking debt funding is not very interesting because they have something, a sword overhanging, and they want to sleep with peace, so they're okay with equity funding, right? A new type of funding, especially for which is very, very suitable for recurring revenue businesses, is revenue-based financing. And we are very, very strongly supportive of entrepreneurs taking revenue-based financing, because in a revenue-based financing, you have an option to, it can either be with equity, but if it is with equity, it is equity buyback, right? Or without equity, what you're doing is you are returning a portion, a percentage of your revenue on a monthly basis. And it is not a debt where you have to pay a certain percentage, a certain amount of EMI every month, right? Irrespective of your business. Here it is related to your percentage of the business. And the good news is we have been able to get people in India, partner with people in India to be able to experiment revenue-based financing for entrepreneurs in India. And the entrepreneurs who have taken revenue-based financing have actually been very appreciative and given great feedback saying that this is what they were looking for, because they are not giving away their company, right? Any ownership in their company, no other rights, no management rights, etc. And they're returning a certain, multiple of their capital based on the revenues that they're making, but through a percentage of the revenues that they're making. If you're doing equity funding, and if you're taking money through a structure in the US, you can always do SAFE. And today, I think the same SAFE mechanism is also being done in India, although it takes education to angel investors to be able to explain that this is a simple agreement for future equity, right? For future equity. So people are not very comfortable when you don't set values. But today, a lot more angel investors are becoming aware of these new structures. And since it is becoming more easier, right, just from a cash point of view, to be able to take money, which is the cash becoming more moving towards a commodity, right? People are ready to experiment new structures. So keep this in mind as you go for funding. And now, since we have covered all the concepts and topics, what I would like to do is really go into the actionables, bringing it all together, right? And this is, if you have to make notes on this, please do, because this is actually very, very important part, right? It brings everything together. The first step, what you will do as entrepreneurs is to write your story. I call this storyboarding. It's a text document, no more than a page, where you write the story of what you want your investor to hear. The story will not have any, it's not about slide decks, etc. Right? It brings about your passion. It brings about the value. It talks about the treasure island, right? The opportunity. It talks about your point of view, your insights, why now, what made you do it, motivation, etc. And that's the story. If that story is powerful, okay, trust me, you don't even need a pitch deck. You don't need anything to raise money if that story is so powerful. But most of the times, we need a pitch deck to reflect that story. And that's where you put together a pitch deck with those ingredients that we talked about and have that pitch deck. So the story is something that you will easy thing to tell to your investor. And if the investor says, can I see some more details on this? You will share the pitch deck, right? So that's number one. Second thing that you will do, right? And you can do this in parallel, but second thing you will do is you will write a wish list. Okay, create a Google Sheet. Okay, I'm giving you actionables in this Google Sheet with your wish list of who are the partners you want in your journey. So I'll give an example, right? So let us say you are doing a HR tech business, okay? Then you will ask in your mind, who are those people, leaders in HR tech that, if I had a magic wand, I would want them to be with me. Okay. Think about it and do not have any biases. They can be as big as $1 billion firm, public firm in the US. It could be a big private firm in India, anything, right? For your related business, see who would be in your wish list. If you don't have enough people in your wish list, ask your founders to also add to that Google Sheet. Ask your peers to add to your Google Sheet. Go to your existing investors or advisors and ask them to add to the Google Sheet, right? Create a list of people who you would say, if I had this person, it is very strategic to my business because he's going to add a lot of value to my business. And, I want to go from there, right? So do that. Second is, this is if you are doing a pitch deck, okay, I keep that optional pitch deck, but yeah, I think most of you will need a pitch deck. So I'm not going to say you will be able to get it through your storyboard. Well, I have seen people do that, right, with the storyboard. But if you're doing a pitch deck, don't do a brain squeeze. It's not a dump of what is in your brain. It is not about the technology. It is not about the jargons. It is not about, AI and machine learning. It's not about that. It is about all the ingredients that we talked about. Why what you're doing is going to change the world or change things for a segment of your customers. And how big is that, right? Why you guys are the best to do that, etc. Right? So that is the pitch deck about. Now that you have your wish list, if you are planning to raise money, don't do this at the last minute, right? Think of it as, how do you do this very quickly, effectively, get the right people? The technique is build that engagement. Hardly anybody does this, okay? If you can do this one thing well, you will find that your angel investment process becomes so easy. What you will do is you will start reaching out to these people and ask, not sell, not try to get money, but only to tell them that I want to keep you informed about my business. I don't want it to be like a junk mail or what do you call it, spam, right? I don't want it to be like a spam. So I want to ask you for permission and I want to add you to this, and they will relate because you're doing something where they think they always think that they can add value, right? Any big guy who's successful is going to think that, I can always add value. So that's the reason why he's asking. So there's no disconnect there. So you're just asking, shall I send an email to you? That's it. And 2 months, maybe 3 emails in that 2 months, right? Where you send mails to them, where you just talk about your point of view, on that particular industry, where you talk about your business, talk about, maybe an ask, telling them, as a well-wisher, would you be able to help me with this? Something, an ask which has nothing to do with money, do that. You'll be amazed that within that 3 emails or 4 emails that you do, the next time you ask them for an opportunity and say that, you see that there is, you have a new opportunity in your business, or you think that you're going to be able to grow your business well, and you want to consider bringing you as a partner in this journey, you'll be very surprised to see that they are very, very responsive to you, and they are happy to talk to you and give you a chance to pitch. And also you'll be surprised that when you pitch, without much friction, they'll be talking about the next stage and how they can invest. Do this with focus also on a lead investor. In that list somewhere, you will be during the process of building this relationship and trust, right? Not everybody that you're going to build a relationship with trust, you're going to see the same kind of engagement. So you will say, hey, I think this is the lead investor that I want to pick. You pick that lead investor and sit down with him and talk about your journey and negotiate and come to terms in terms of what you are ready to do, what you're ready to give up, what you're not ready to give up. And you will find that this kind of lead investor, the angel investor, is not going to ask for a due diligence. He's not going to ask for financial. They don't even ask for they may not even ask for your balance sheet. They're not going to ask for your last year financials, etc. If they see you as an individual whom they can trust and look at the storyboard, right? Come back and negotiate. Once you negotiate your terms, you take that terms with the support of the lead investor and go to all the other people in your network who you have identified and who you have already built a relationship, and go raise money. Remember that this process is, takes 50% of a founder bandwidth and can take about 4 months from start of when you think about raising money, and think about it from that timeline of anywhere between 4 to 6 months if you want to do this in the most effective manner. So that's the actionables part. Make sure that you think about it. So again, reminding you that it's a few ingredients that are weaved into a story, not too many things, right? The most important things that will trigger an emotion to me as an angel investor is what is important. And then you will do a test of that, right? When you can test run it. And I'm sure most of you have heard what is a grandma test and the Chinese whisper test. Can you go to your grandma and tell that story and see whether your grandma understands at least something out of it, right? I'm not saying everything. The moment you have AI, ML, C, C++, Java, or stack and modules and inter-process communication, all those things, you're lost, right? Everything is lost. Can you put your story so simple that your grandma, if she doesn't understand everything, at least she understands some parts of it, right? The more important test is also called the Chinese whisper test. I'm sure many of you have heard what the Chinese whisper test is. The way to do that is you tell that message to somebody in your company. Ask that person to repeat that message back to you, or to go tell another person, and then ask that person to tell you what you understand is the story of your business. And if what you hear back is something totally different than what you told the first person, then it is not simple enough, or people are not able to recall your message, or people don't just find it interesting enough that they will be able to recall, right? So again, a lot of people don't do these things, but if you can do this, it's great, because when you go and talk to an angel investor, or you are sending or you're having a 5-minute conversation with him on the phone, talking about your story, please remember that there are many others also trying to reach the same angel investor for something else, right? If your story is not very simple, it's not interesting enough to be able to be remembered, what guarantee is there that that person is going to even remember your story and put it in his stack of things to do and say, hey, I want to reach out to this guy and find out more about what he's doing, right? So keep that story very simple. And last, as a final closing thoughts, I said remember it's a journey, right? And the journey is about going to a treasure island. There are rough seas that you have to cross to get to the treasure island. But when you tell about the journey to someone like an angel investor, right, you are telling him about how nice how scenic the whole thing is going to be, right? While yes, it is seas with rough time, and whether it is with rough times and good times where it is very scenic, and sometimes when it is rough, the captain on that ship or the boat is you, who has full control of it and know exactly how to get to the treasure island, right? So that is something that you should remember, because it is a journey, and this is a message, and this is a story that you will be telling to so many people, not just one angel investor. And when you build this positioning, when you build this pitching of your business, you will find that there are many stakeholders that you will use a similar pitching, not necessarily the same, but similar pitching, right, to your employees to be able to rally them through your journey, to your partners to help you do your business, to your customers to help them understand how well you will partner with them in solving a problem, and to your investors, board members, right, and all other stakeholders. So put together these few ingredients, weave it into a sticky narrative, which is told to the right person using the right structure, is what I want to leave you guys with. Final key thoughts here, just to summarize this, raise right amount of money at the right time from the right people, use the 4N framework of network, narrative, numbers, and nuances, use the actionables that I talked about in executing it end to end. Understand that this is not something that you can, you can just think about today and just do it, because you can, but it'll be suboptimal. Remember that it is 50% of one founder's time, and it will take at least 4 months. And the key to everything is building a powerful narrative. I want to stop here. Thank you. I know it was a bit long, but I'm hoping that it was helpful.
Hey, Shekar, first of all, thank you very much. Such a wonderful presentation. Okay, we have a lot of questions that are for, anyway, some of them actually I tried answering and myself. Okay, those straightforward questions. But before we go into the quick Q&A, I just want actually quickly inform about our the new Women Startup Program once again, so that people actually aware of it. Okay, guys, as I said, actually, we launched the one free program. Actually, it's called Women Startup Program. Last date of application is the 21st August. Okay, that's the link actually, bit.ly/WSP and 2020. But anyway, I'm sharing the link once again with you guys. Okay, with that, actually, let's go on to the Q&A. I know we have a few minutes. Shekar, how about some of those questions actually you want to pick it up, or we can ask the people to raise their hand, but can you just go to the Q&A?
Sure. So,
okay, so one is actually, if I, okay, let me come from the top, from the first. Okay, how do I validate and revalidate my revenue model, ensuring proper investments and risk mitigation?
Okay, great question. How do I validate and revalidate my revenue model, ensuring proper investments and risk mitigation?
Yeah.
So there are a few aspects, right, to consider when you look at your revenue model. And ultimately, the bottom line is your cash flow, you know that this is the amount of cash that you're getting. But at the top level, what you have to really look at is how much are you spending to acquire a customer, which we call, our business terms is customer acquisition cost, right? How much are you spending to acquire a customer? And do you know during the life of that customer, how much money will you get from that customer, which we consider in a business term, it's called the lifetime value of that customer, right? For different business models, depending on whether you are, doing this as a recurring business or it's a one-time business with AMC from the following year, etc. You have to look at it and say that, if there is a particular ratio for each of these business model in terms of your CAC and LTV. So if your lifetime value itself is going to be lesser than your CAC, then you don't have the unit economics proved correctly, right? Now, when you bring investments, because one of the question that you had asked, did that question disappear? Okay.
Yeah, no, it is. I just moved it to the.
Oh, you moved it away. Okay.
Yeah, I moved it. How do I validate and revalidate my revenue model, ensuring the proper investments and this thing? I moved it back.
Correct. So from an investment perspective, I want to touch upon is
okay.
At various stages of business. Okay, and you have to look at your business. The thing I'm not able to comment about specifically is I don't know whether you're a B2B business or a B2C business, or you're a recurring business, or you're a one-time business. But the important thing there to consider is when you look at investments is at an early stage, you will have more investments towards building the product. But very soon, you have to move towards your spend being on traction. Traction is acquisition of customers, spending money on channel, spending money on marketing. And what we find is that many of the times, just to keep the revenue and spend model in sync, people tend to keep this number skewed, right? The investment skewed. So they're spending very, very little on sales and marketing and spending 80 to 90% on engineering. And then they expect that, okay, you know what, I'm not able to scale. But but as an entrepreneur, I'm able to keep my cash flow okay. So the thing is about making it move from 80-20 to actually, 50-50, and then later on to 40-60.
Oh, good. So next question is actually from Mr. Rawat. Actually, I have a startup which has recently changed from B2B service based business to the B2C, B2B SaaS based company. Would this affect me to raise funds?
Answer is no, it should not affect you to from raising funds if you changed from B2B to B2B to C, right? It should not affect. It's really about your value proposition, because it can take 2 steps to reach your treasure island, right? Whether it is directly as a B2B or whether it is B2B to B2C, but more importantly, it is about your point of views about that business and showing the investor about that particular treasure island and how big it is and why you can get there predictably, or you can assure the investor that you will be able to get there.
So 2 more simple questions. For the first time fundraising, is it good to go with angel investor or VCs?
First time fundraising, definitely you should go with angel investors. And my strong recommendation would be to go with strategic angels and not just angels who have money, because that is the stage when you really need most help. And somebody who understands your business domain and is a strategic angel would be the best person to be able to help and make a difference in your business.
Okay, what kind of firms an investor prefer? Is it with multiple co-founders or a lone wolf?
Okay, good question. If you investors prefer that the disciplines, the areas of business, okay, are covered. So first thing is you need to make sure that there is a guy, somebody in your team at the co-founder level who's taking care of the tech. And there is also another person in the co-founder level who is taking care of business. If this can be achieved by having one or multiple founders, the investor is okay with that.
Okay. So anyway, for me, I feel if being, I prefer having a multiple co-founders.
So from an entrepreneur point of view,
yeah,
having multiple co-founders is always good.
Okay.
Because, you know, as a lone founder, you will have to take everything on your shoulder and run with it.
Yes. Even from the investor point of view also, actually, the lone founder is a big risk.
Agreed. Investor looks at it that way. That's why I think that coverage is very important. If you are able to say that, you know, here is the co-founder, irrespective of whether he joined a little bit later or not, right? That depends on the equity and ownership in the company and that person's level of experience, right? I think the investors are okay. Investors don't care whether that person joined together with the other person or not, right? But at the time, yeah.
As long as actually they have a co-founder. Okay. Yeah. So what is the minimum average ticket size for angel in India?
Minimum average, what we are finding is that people are putting in just 5 lakhs and expecting to, you know, they act as a VC and ask the people to open up their entire, you know, business, show them the financials, technology, etc. And I've heard from entrepreneurs saying that it's a bit frustrating, right? Why when they have to do this multiple times with multiple people who are just putting in 3 lakhs or 5 lakhs, it is becomes frustrating.
And do angel look for cash budget?
Angels look for cash budget in terms of cash flow.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, at a very high level, they do.
Anyway, in a B2C model, where the business in cash intensive, is there a fund limit of angel investors fund? At what?
So I want to have a disclaimer. B2C is not my area of expertise. So I'm just here giving opinion which is not based on this, right? B2C is a very different animal. You know, if you don't have the money, you won't be able to get your customers. You can see whether it is Swiggy, whether it is Uber, whether it is anybody, right? So there it is more a game of, you know, who gets maximum amount of money raised and who is able to spend that money for acquiring customers. Because as you know, many of the customers are not loyal. So you have to continuously pump money to be able to keep your customers. You know, so that's a very different game. The fundamentals there works very differently. You are not showing any positive unit economics until you reach a large scale. And the idea is about investing to get to that large scale.
Okay. Is the lead investor generally maximum investor? You mean to say is the lead investor generally the maximum investor?
Generally, yes. The lead investor puts more money than the other investors, generally. But that is not necessary. The lead investor is somebody who others will look up to. And the lead investor is somebody who you can sit down and finalize your terms and then share the same terms to the others.
Okay, for the lead investor, should we give the status of our business update or general domain business discussions?
No, you have to give of course, you have to talk about your business.
Okay. Okay, anyway, everybody's asking, can you share the presentation? So,
yeah, that's something that I will work through Kesava and
yeah. So we guys, actually, we will get that PDF file. We will upload it to the NSRCell website. So in our next mailers, actually, you will have that link to that. Yeah. Okay, somebody is asking how to approach and whom to approach at NSRCell for incubation. Please write it to the ideas@nsrcell.org. are there any ingredients of narrative subject or to type of investor? Didn't understand that.
Yeah. So what the question is? Yes, there is, right? The answer is, see, if you're going to a late stage, you're going to a VC, and you need to raise a significant amount of money because your business is not at an early stage, right? Here the focus was more on early stage angel investments. But if you are doing that, then definitely the ingredients have to be different, because by now they understand the treasure island. Now they need to know more about, what are the challenges you are facing to reach the treasure island. Where are you now, right? Which part of the ocean, where have you reached, right? So basically you have to open up a lot more in terms of your financials, in terms of your churn with your customers, your stickiness, so many other aspects that will be required for a later stage company.
Okay, so how do we value pre-revenue SaaS startup?
Yeah, I talked about that in detail today, right? So it is about the story. So the more strategic your positioning is, your pitching is, you will value the SaaS startup based on what you expect it to be after 2 or 3 years from now. So you're going to tell your investor, saying that while I'm pre-revenue and I have significant amount of technology and this, I'm not valuing my company based on just technology and my human capital, right, the team, but I'm also valuing based on where we will be 2 years from now. So that gives an anchor for you to negotiate. But this particular negotiation is not a science, it is an art. So the better you have that narrative, which is more strategic in nature, it helps you negotiate better.
So can you touch upon the revenue-based investments? That's what actually.
Sure. So, if you look at it about maybe till about a year back, this was not popular, right? Once people started realizing this was, they started in the US, right, with companies such as IndieVC, Lighter Capital. Now there are so many models in the US where what people are doing is they're saying, okay, I know that you are having X amount of revenues coming in every year, every month. And the reason they know that, even without having to look at all your financials, etc., is today in an online model, everything is tied to your payment gateway. And once you give payment gateway access, right, people know that, okay, monthly, this is your subscription revenue. So banking on that subscription revenues that you're getting on a monthly basis, people are able to come up with models called revenue-based financing, where they say, hey, I give you X amount of money for you as an investment, right? Be it $1 million or $500,000, whatever it is. What I expect from you is that you give me 2x of that amount. Okay. In some cases, that's model specific, right? IndieVC may do it one way, RevUp may do it another way. The Lighter Capital does it another way. SaaS Capital does it another way, right? So if I give you 2x of that amount, you don't have to give me on a fixed amount on a monthly basis like a loan. Instead, what you do is, whatever is your revenue for that month, pay me a percentage of that money. Okay. There is now even simpler concepts, like, I don't know if people have heard about Clearbank, where it is like a virtual credit card. It's a revenue-based financing with a virtual credit card model, where you can ask for, say, I want $30,000 of spend because I have a $2,000 per month of revenue, right? And you can pay a percentage of that on a monthly basis. And they don't charge, it's not an interest base, but they charge a fee, a total amount on top of that for their fees.
Okay. Hey, okay. On the similar note, actually, do you recommend to appoint an investment banker or a consultant to look for investment?
Depends on the stage of the business. First of all, investment banker should come in only if you are, if you are at a much later stage. I mean, this is debatable, but my strong recommendation is that, at an early stage, especially at early angel investment stage, the relationship and the trust that you're building with the investor is very important. And that can only be done through the founder individually reaching out. And third thing is today, because of the mechanisms for you to be able to reach investors has become much easier. You don't need an IB to help out in that.
Okay, Shekar, it's 12 o'clock and there are another 100 plus questions. What I will do is, I think, so a lot of people also raised their hands. I think, I'm
okay with another, 15 minutes if you want to, but otherwise we can.
Yeah, so, okay. Let me just actually open up. Guys, actually, you guys can raise the hand so that instead of me asking the question, you can ask yourself. Okay. But keep your question very simple and straightforward. Okay. Keep it.
Yeah, and I'll also try to answer it briefly. If we can, we'll take more questions then.
Yeah. Praveen Jagadish.
Hello.
Yeah, Praveen, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi. So we've got a SaaS company in the tech platform, and so it's basically run by myself and my husband. So I just had this doubt how investors take to couple founders, husband and wife, because I got the feedback that they're not so much in favor of it. Any thoughts on that, sir?
Angel investors, no problem at all. Absolutely no problem. We have multiple startups in our accelerator.
Okay.
With the same situation, and there's absolutely no problem. It is more about who takes care of what responsibility and how good you are at taking care of that responsibility.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, honestly, if you have a revenues and if you have a good business model, you don't have to really worry. Those are all.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's next is Lali. I think, okay. Yugandhar? Lali, go ahead. You can ask your question.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Yeah, I'm fine. I didn't have any question. I didn't raise my hand.
Okay, fine. Okay. Prasanna?
Thank you. We are 4 years old. There is an opportunity wherein people are asking for complete buyout of a company. Is this a sort of a good situation to do that? Or I know it's a tricky question, but what would you advise?
Yeah, it's not very tricky. See, the way I see it is very important thing that we strongly recommend to our founders is it's all about founder outcome. Okay. We always hear in the press and everything talking about large exits and all that only you hear. So, but nobody talks about what percentage of that or absolute amount goes to the founder and what goes to the investor. So founder outcome is what is most important, right? So you have to look at every opportunity and see what is it that you are getting, you and your co-founders are getting out of that opportunity, whether it's a full exit or not. And how does that compare with where you can take that business and what are the risks to taking that business to a different stage. So you have to use your understanding of the market, the business itself, right? How it is doing to figure that out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And next is Deepika Khandelwal. Deepika, you have to unmute. Yeah.
Yes. Hi. Actually, I want to learn more about this angel investor. So I want to check whom to contact after this session if I have to ask more questions.
Yeah.
To help, we can also help you.
Yes. So I can contact you through LinkedIn.
Sure. I'm sure. I mean, you can always. That's the beauty about LinkedIn and Twitter and all that, right? You can always contact us.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Okay, next is Giridhar Ganga.
Thanks, Keshav. Shekharji, very good presentation. Thank you for doing it. My question was, could we use something, a similar model like this for not-for-profit ventures as well? Because we've got a microfinancing startup that's sort of in between benefiting the society versus making profit, and we're sort of leaning towards making it a more not-for-profit.
And are you have you been talking to angel investors?
I'm actually an angel investor in the startup, but I think we're at the point where we really want to scale it up. So we're sort of figuring out what our next steps are.
Yeah, so I don't see why you should not be able to do that. Maybe you can comment on that, working with nonprofits, but I don't see any reason. See, the main thing about nonprofit is there should be an alignment with the investor in terms of what is in it for him, right? Because if it's a nonprofit, how are you going to convince me, and how do you get me aligned with that particular opportunity?
Okay. So the reason we all so just a sort of small comment. So the reason we all invested in this was because we wanted to help the bottom of the pyramid from a microfinancing perspective. But maybe I can reach out to you in LinkedIn. I can give you some details and get some guidance from you.
Please do that.
Yeah, next is Prasanna.
I already asked my question, I think.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Kiran?
Thanks, Keshwa. I have two questions. One, basically, how to choose a incubation center. We have such great incubation centers like NSR Cell, NASCOM 10K, Amrita TBI. How to choose one? And then the second question is, who is qualified as a tech founder? The one who can actually code, or has experience handling tech teams and can handle a tech team by himself?
Okay, great question. So on the incubation side, I'm going to give you my it's my viewpoint, right? You'll have to check right or wrong on that. See, the thing is, what are your needs? You should look at that. Is space a need? Is an immediate grant a need? Right? Are having a community of founders a need? Right? Are you at a stage of business where you cannot get into an accelerator program? So think about all those things. If you are just beginning, you need a space, you need a community of startups to interact with, talk to. You want the possibility of getting a grant from the incubator. Then you look at all those parameters and talk to people like NSR Cell.
What if a startup is a B2C and early stage MVP level?
Hey, Kiran, I think in the interest of a lot of questions are there. I think we will just take one by one actually, because let's give the opportunity for the others actually. Yeah. So next, Shaik.
Hi, sir. So I believe, as you just said, that investor would like to look at your revenue as well. So my question was, if a product is new in the market, so how do you price your product at loss or break even a profit to get that initial sales to show the revenue to the investors for further, so that they could have an interest in investing in our startup?
Yeah, so that's a great question again, because pricing is a very, very big topic. Okay? And the best way to price, if you want to convince an investor, is value-based pricing. So where your pricing saying, I am able to give this much value to the customer, and therefore my price is a percentage of that value. That's the best way to do it. Not every business can do it, or not every entrepreneur is able to do value-based pricing. And value-based pricing can be done in many axes also, dimensions. Right? So that's the first part. Second part is, if you're not able to do that, then do based on market, comparables, competitors, etc. Right? Set that, based on that you show the price. Third is geography based. So you should always realize that it is easier to make a dollar than making a rupee. So if you are able to price something in India for something, you have to be able to convince the customer that your pricing in other markets is going to be much higher. Is it 10x higher or 7x higher is dependent on your business.
Good. Next is Sachin.
Yeah. Hi. So we're a team of two, me and my friend. We went out to explore an unexplored market, just like how Uber explored the taxi industry. We are exploring the printing industry, and we created a product, a minimum viable product that works just fine with pitch deck and market feasibility study. We're stuck now, and we don't know what's our next step. So, what would you suggest our next step would be?
Your next step should be to talk to potential customers, prospects,
Okay.
and have significant number of conversations
Mm-hmm.
to be able to identify your ideal customer profile.
Okay.
And what is the problem value that you are able to solve for them.
Okay. Thank you.
Next is Aditya.
Hello. Thank you, sir, for the session. It was great. So my question is, we're a drone company and we have experience of working on drones. We're working on drone delivery in the logistics space. What we're doing requires massive amounts of capital. So I just wanted advice on stake dilution and fundraising.
Yeah. So when your when you have assets, right, and you need to raise a lot more money, then unless you are able to find a strategic angel who is able to relate to your industry and is a HNI who can put in a lot of money, I would suggest you should then go to a professional investor and pitch your story on why it justifies taking a lot of money, because the opportunity behind it is enormous. So that's the pitching you should do.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, Neha.
Hello.
Yeah, Neha, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much for the session, sir. It was amazing. I have an agency and it's a service-based non-tech startup, and it's been 1.5 years. We have a couple of clients we've done good for ourselves, but I wanted to understand what suggestion would you give to a non-tech startup, because whenever I go for I talk to an investor, anyone, they always prefer a tech startup rather than a service-based startup, even though we have revenues and everything. So what is the...
So that is the reality. We have to face that. And the reason for that is people look at barrier to entry, right? When there is tech, then tech becomes a barrier to entry. So you have to create in your service business some amount of intellectual property, whether it is based on the number of customers, the clients that you are servicing, or some particular innovation in your services that you will have to then use as the barrier to entry and convince your angel investor or a professional investor.
Okay. So since we are already 1 year old, 1.5 years, do you suggest angel investor for us to start?
Sure. It doesn't matter whether you are 1 year or 2 years. That is not the, it depends on the stage of the company you are in and how many investors you already have. If you don't have anybody else, then taking a HNI or an angel investor who relates to that business would be the best thing to do.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Surya?
Yeah, I'm here. Hi, sir. Sir, we are a blockchain-based electronic invoicing startup, mainly focusing on tax automation and invoice financing. So, as you rightly mentioned here, previously, that we should not focus exclusively, extensively on tech while pitching to investors. But while using some of the key technologies like blockchain, we have some process advantage or tech advantage. So, how to present present that to investors in a very simple way? Like, if we should focus on the outcome or we should focus on the process.
No, sure. So you will mention that what you're doing is enabled because of blockchain, but there is no point in telling me that you do this blockchain, etc. You have to tell me what is the problem you're solving, and why you're solving that differently than what it used to be done before. So blockchain may be the underlying technology that enables that to happen, but pitch me on why the world will be different because of that.
Okay, so something like when we use blockchain, we can automate the process of validation. So something like we should look for the outcome, right?
Yeah, but go higher up in the value chain to the customer. What does the customer care the most? Number one, right? Whoever is your customer, what does he care the most? And position based on that. That is called the value chain. You may want to check something called the Wadley map for positioning on the internet.
Yeah. Next is Praveen. I think this is the last question. I think Praveen RS. Okay. Mayank Goyal, you can just go ahead.
Sorry, I am Praveen here.
Okay, go ahead, Praveen. Then after Mayank,
Yeah.
then actually we will end the session. Okay.
Okay. Two questions here. As a part of ideation, can we approach any of the angels for the investment first and foremost? And how important is it, for a founder to be a graduate or something? Say, for example, we are into an organic space wherein I can have a founder, maybe a farmer background, and he's not educated enough. So, can we have such a person as part of founder team and get funding from your end?
Answer is yes. Okay, there is still biases in terms of education and in terms of expectations. There is biases, okay, out there. But the answer is yes. The best example is if you see Girish of Freshworks, what does he say? He says Aam Aadmi, right? I'm an Aam Aadmi, and he has built the the biggest or the second biggest SaaS company out of India, right? So nothing is stopped or prevented, right, because of the person, a co-founder, not having a degree or anything. It is more about the value that they can bring to the business based on their expertise or intelligence or some other value that they can bring in.
Okay, on the MVP part, can we go ahead?
Yeah, MVP part. My preference would be that if you are able to get the idea to a stage where somebody sees value in it, okay, it'll be easier for you to attract your investors and also to get the right valuation.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Okay, last question, Mayank.
Thanks a lot, Keshav. Thanks a lot, Shekar. It was an amazing presentation. Certainly got a lot out of it. I have two very quick questions. Firstly, we spoke a lot about the elements that should be present in kind of a pitch deck. So one thing I really struggle with is kind of keeping the size of the presentation concise while accommodating a lot of elements into it. So how do we kind of go about that is the first question. The second question is that we're an early stage neo-banking startup based out of Bangalore. And the problem we raised a little bit of money, but the problem we're really facing is that we kind of need the money to really go to the market and prove product market fit. But for us to raise the money, we kind of need the product market fit. So there's a catch-22. So any suggestions around that will be highly appreciated.
Yeah, so the second part is more interesting, right? The second part is where that's a challenge a lot of entrepreneurs face. And what you need to do as an entrepreneur when you are in that situation, right, is to see whether you can use effectuation more effectively to get to that point where you can then go to an investor and ask. So for example, when I hear you saying that I need money to be able to prove product market fit, and then I need product market fit to take money, you should break that loop. So the way to break that loop is you should look at what are those things that you need that for product market fit that you would have done with money, and that you should try to do it through creative ways by using effectuation.
Sure. I mean, see, I don't want to take a lot of your time, but in a neo-banking setup, we have to partner with banks and Visa and a lot of other networks and so on and so forth. And these guys kind of have a risk and compliance department and all that stuff even before we can go to the market, right? So we have to have these elements in place, which doesn't really, which kind of takes money. Because these guys have a minimum commitment they're expecting from us on a monthly basis to have these partnerships.
I understand. I'll give you an example. there are startup founders who I've seen who are able to convince their first customer, okay? Like they're not yet a customer, first customer with whom they are going to do they're going to partner with and work together to roll out the solution, to actually invest that amount that you need to make that possible. So you have to look at, there is no other way, man. You have to break this loop. So you have to look at creative ways by which you can get certain done without having to raise money.
Sure. Sure.
Hey, guys, I think with that note, let's special thanks to Shekar. Actually, hey, you have, I know it's a wonderful session on a Saturday, taking a time out and spending with our people. It's so thanks to you, Shekar. Guys, I know that a lot of you guys have a lot of questions to Shekar, but anyway, you can get in touch with him actually on LinkedIn and you can ask your questions. Yes, thank you very much for everyone actually for joining us today. So we will again meet on August 16th on another first startup session. We'll keep you posted on the mailers. Thank you very much. Have a nice and wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Hope it was helpful.
Yep.
Bye. Bye.